quick like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. My name is Derek. I'm 36 years old, and I work as a cybersecurity consultant for enterprises across the East Coast. I spend my days identifying vulnerabilities in systems, finding security gaps, and protecting networks from threats. I'm good at staying hidden, at observing without being detected, at gathering evidence before anyone knows they're being watched. Skills that turn out to be incredibly useful when my wife decided to move her boyfriend into our house. I met Melissa 8 years ago at a technology conference in Boston. She was working in event management for the hotel hosting the conference, and I was there presenting on network security. We connected over terrible conference coffee and a shared love of true crime podcasts. We got married 2 years later, bought a house in Cary, North Carolina, a spacious 4-bedroom colonial with a guest room on the first floor and a master suite on the second. The kind of house meant for a growing family. We talked about kids eventually, but Melissa wanted to focus on her career first. She'd moved from hotel event management to corporate event planning, coordinating conferences and product launches for tech companies. The work was demanding, with irregular hours and frequent evening events. I traveled a lot for my consulting work. Sometimes I'd be gone for a week at a time, conducting security audits at client sites across the country. Melissa was used to my absences. We'd adapted to it, or at least I thought we had. About 6 months ago, I started noticing changes. Small things at first. Melissa would be extra cheerful when I told her about upcoming business trips. She'd ask for exact dates, exact times I'd be leaving and returning. "Just so I can plan my work schedule around yours," she'd say. Our house started looking different when I'd come home. Furniture slightly rearranged. Different food in the refrigerator than what we usually bought. The guest room bed always freshly made, like someone had recently been in it. "I've been having trouble sleeping," Melissa explained when I asked about the guest room. "Sometimes I go down there when you're away so I don't disturb your side of the bed." It made sense, except we had a king-size bed, and I wasn't there to be disturbed. Then there were the charges on our credit card. Groceries for 2 became groceries for 3 or 4. More beer than Melissa would drink. Steaks and expensive cuts of meat we never normally bought. "I've been meal prepping," she said, trying to eat healthier. But Melissa had never meal prepped in her life. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. I had a business trip scheduled to San Francisco, a week-long security audit for a financial services company. I've been talking about it for a month. Melissa knew every detail. The day before I was supposed to leave, I got a call from the client. "Derek, we need to postpone," the CTO said. "Our CFO just had a medical emergency. We're going to push the audit back 2 weeks." "No problem. I hope everything's okay. Appreciate your flexibility." I hung up and sat at my desk, thinking. I could tell Melissa the trip was canceled. We could spend the week together, maybe take a few days off ourselves. Or I could use this opportunity to find out what my wife was really doing when I was away. I chose option 2. That evening, I told Melissa the trip was still on. "Same schedule?" she asked, too casually. "Yep, leaving tomorrow morning at 6. Back next Friday evening." "Okay, I'll miss you." She kissed me, but I noticed she was already checking her phone. The next morning, I made a show of packing my suitcase, loading into my car, and driving away at 5:45 a.m. I drove to a coffee shop 2 miles away and waited. At 7:30 a.m., I drove back to my neighborhood, parked on a side street where I could see our house, but wouldn't be easily noticed. I'd done this before on security jobs. Surveillance is just pattern observation. At 8:15 a.m., Melissa's car left the driveway. She was heading to work, like normal. I waited another 30 minutes to be sure, then drove back to our house. Parked in the garage, closed the door behind me. The house was quiet, empty. I went upstairs to my home office, the 4th bedroom that I'd converted into a workspace. I had my computers, my monitors, my security equipment, everything I needed. And I had something Melissa didn't know about. When we'd first bought the house, I'd installed a comprehensive security system. Cameras at all the entrances, motion sensors, smart locks on every door. I told Melissa it was for security, for peace of mind when we traveled. What I hadn't told her was that I also had cameras inside the house. Not in private spaces like bathrooms or the bedroom. I'm not a creep. But in the living room, kitchen, and guest room. Just to monitor for break-ins or water leaks when we're both away. I'd told myself when I installed them. But now I had a different use for them. I pulled up the security system on my computer. Live feeds from every camera. Motion detection alerts. Audio recording. Then I settled in to wait. Melissa came home at 5:30 p.m., like normal. I watched on the camera as she walked through the house, checking rooms, making sure I was really gone. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. I couldn't hear what she was saying. The living room camera didn't have audio, but I could see her smiling, laughing, twirling her hair the way she used to do with me when we first started dating. She ended the call and went to the kitchen, started cooking. Not the simple dinners she usually made for herself. Something elaborate. Steaks, roasted vegetables, a salad. Dinner for two. At 7:15 p.m., a car pulled into our driveway. I watched on the exterior camera as a man got out. Mid-30s, athletic build, confident walk. He was carrying an overnight bag. Melissa opened the front door before he could knock. Threw her arms around him. Kissed him in a way she hadn't kissed me in months. My hands clenched into fists. The man, I'd learn later his name was Brett, walked into my house like he owned it. Melissa closed the door behind them. I switched to the living room camera. They were all over each other. Kissing, touching, laughing. Melissa pulled him toward the kitchen, poured him a glass of wine. I missed you. I could hear her say. The kitchen camera had audio. Missed you too, babe. Whole week together this time, right? Whole week. Derek won't be back until Friday. Brett grinned. Good. Because I'm tired of sneaking around. I want to wake up next to you every morning. You will. For the next 7 days, this is our house. Our house. I sat in my office, watching my wife serve dinner to another man at our table. Watching them eat the food she'd bought with our money. Watching them act like a couple in the house I paid for. After dinner, they moved to the couch. Turned on a movie. Brett had his arm around Melissa, and she was curled into his side. I'm thinking of just staying here permanently, Brett said, moving into the guest room. That way we can see each other whenever we want. Melissa laughed. Derek would notice an extra person living here. So, tell him I'm a friend who needs a place to stay for a while. Or that you're renting out the room for extra income. He travels all the time anyway. He'd barely see me. She considered it. Actually considered it. Maybe, she said. Let me think about how to approach it. They watched TV for another hour. Then Melissa stood up, took Brett's hand, and led him to the guest room. I didn't watch the guest room camera feed. I didn't need to see that. I'd already seen enough. I sat in my dark office, listening to my wife and her boyfriend in the room directly below me, and I made a plan. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. I'd slept in my office on the small couch I kept for late-night work sessions. My back hurt, but I was functional. I pulled up the cameras. The guest room door was still closed. At 7 a.m., I heard movement downstairs. Melissa's alarm. She had to get to work. I watched on camera as she slipped out of the guest room, Brett still sleeping inside. She got ready in our master bathroom, oblivious to the fact that I was one floor above her, and left for work at 8 a.m. Brett woke up around 9 o'clock. I watched him walk through my house in his boxer shorts, make himself coffee in my kitchen, eat breakfast from my refrigerator. Then he did something that made my blood boil. He went into my garage, looked at my tools, my workbench, the equipment I'd accumulated over the years. He picked up one of my expensive power drills, examined it, set it down. Like he was shopping. Like he was planning to stay. Then he went back inside, took a shower in the guest bathroom, and settled on my couch to watch TV. This man was spending the day in my house while I hid upstairs. I called my attorney. His name was Marcus Bennett. I'd worked with him on some contract reviews for my consulting business. He was sharp, thorough, and specialized in family law. Marcus, I need advice. Personal matter. What's going on, Derek? My wife is having an affair. Her boyfriend is currently in my house right now, living in our guest room while she thinks I'm on a business trip. There was a pause. He's living in your house, staying for the week, and they were discussing making it permanent. Jesus, are you safe? Are you home? I'm upstairs in my office. They don't know I'm here. I canceled my business trip but didn't tell my wife. I've been documenting everything on my security cameras. You have cameras inside your house. Living room, kitchen, guest room. No audio in the guest room, but audio elsewhere. I've recorded her admitting to the affair, him talking about moving in permanently. All of it. Derek, this is gold. North Carolina still recognizes adultery in divorce proceedings. This documentation is exactly what we need. What should I do? How long can you stay hidden? As long as I need to. My office has a mini fridge, a bathroom down the hall. I can order food delivery to a side door. I can stay invisible for days if necessary. Then do it. Document everything. Every conversation, every interaction. The more evidence we have of her conducting an affair in the marital home, the stronger your case. What about him? Can I have him arrested for trespassing? Technically, your wife has a right to invite guests to the marital home. But if you can document that he's living there with the intent of replacing you as her partner, that strengthens the argument for alienation of affection. North Carolina still has that law. It does. And if you can prove this Brett person deliberately interfered with your marriage, you might have a civil claim against him as well. I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. Keep talking. Marcus and I spent the next hour planning strategy. I'd document everything for the next week. Gather as much evidence as possible. Then, when Melissa thought I was coming home from my trip, I'd confront both of them with an attorney present and divorce papers ready to file. 1 week of evidence, Marcus said. Then we end this. Over the next 6 days, I became a ghost in my own home. I'd wake up early, before Melissa. Stay quiet in my office. I had a small coffee maker, a mini fridge stocked with food I'd bought before this started. I worked remotely, taking video calls with my door closed and my noise-canceling setup active. At night, after Melissa and Brett went to the guest room, I'd sneak downstairs to use the main bathroom, grab more food, move silently through my own house like an intruder. It was surreal, degrading, infuriating, but the evidence I was gathering made it worth it. Day 2, Brett and Melissa had dinner together again. She came home early from work, claiming she told her boss she needed time off for a family emergency. They cooked together, drank wine, acted like newlyweds. I love having you here, Melissa said. It feels so natural. Better than sneaking around, Brett agreed. I hate going back to my apartment after seeing you. Maybe you won't have to much longer. Day 3, Brett went through more of my belongings. My garage, my closet in the guest room, even my office, though he just looked from the doorway, didn't come in. Like he was cataloging what he'd have access to. He called someone on his phone. His friend, apparently. Yeah, man, I'm basically living here now. Melissa's husband is gone all the time. She's talking about making it official, maybe asking him for a divorce. Then this place is basically mine. Basically his. Day 4, Melissa and Brett went out to dinner. They came back late, drunk, laughing, made out in my living room. I recorded all of it. Day 5, Brett's overnight bag became several bags. He was moving clothes into the guest room closet, toiletries into the bathroom, making himself at home. Derek won't notice, Melissa assured him. He barely uses the guest room. And if he does, I'll tell him you're a friend, staying temporarily. He won't question it. Day 6, I heard them discussing money. How much does Derek make? Brett asked over breakfast. Around $160,000 a year. Plus he has investment accounts, retirement savings. And you get half in a divorce. At least. Maybe more, depending on how we structure it. Brett whistled. Nice. We could buy a place together with that. That's what I'm thinking. They were planning a future with my money. In my house. While I listened from 1 floor above. I'd recorded over 40 hours of footage. Conversations about the affair, about divorce plans, about financial strategies. Brett moving his belongings in. Melissa lying to me over text about how much she missed me and couldn't wait for me to come home. All of it documented. Time-stamped. Saved to encrypted cloud storage. On Thursday evening, the night before I was supposed to return, I called Marcus. I have everything we need. Good. Here's what we do tomorrow. The plan was simple. I'd come home for my business trip at the scheduled time, 6 p.m. Marcus would arrive 15 minutes later with divorce papers and a police officer, just in case Brett decided to get aggressive about being asked to leave. This is going to be dramatic, Marcus warned. Good. They've been living in my house for a week. They deserve dramatic. Friday morning, Melissa left for work as usual. Brett stayed behind, now completely comfortable being alone in my house all day. At noon, Melissa texted me. Hope your flight home is smooth. Miss you. See you tonight. I texted back, landing at 5. Home by 6. Can't wait to see you. Love you. She responded with heart emojis. I sat in my office, looking at those heart emojis, and felt nothing but contempt. At 4 p.m., Melissa came home early. She and Brett cleaned up the house, put away his extra belongings, remade the guest bed to look unused, erased all evidence he'd been living there. Derek can't know you were here all week, Melissa said. When are you going to tell him about us? Brett asked. Soon. I just need to figure out the right approach. Maybe after the holidays. I'm tired of hiding. I know. Me too. Just a little longer. They kissed. Brett grabbed his main bag and left at 5:15 p.m. Melissa rushed around, making the house look exactly like it had when I'd left a week ago. She changed the sheets on her bed, put out fresh towels, started cooking dinner, playing the devoted wife. At 5:55 p.m., I texted her, just pulled into the neighborhood. Be home in 2 minutes. She texted back immediately. Dinner's almost ready. So glad you're home safe. At 6 p.m., I walked downstairs. Through my own house. For the first time in a week, not hiding. I opened the front door like I was coming home. Derek. Melissa rushed to greet me. Hug me. Kiss me. I didn't hug back. She pulled away, confused. Everything okay? How was the trip? Trip was fine. Got canceled, actually. Her face went pale. What? Client had an emergency. Postponed the whole thing. So I came back early. Last Friday morning, actually. I watched the color drain from her face completely. You've been home? I've been upstairs in my office all week. Working remotely. While you and Brett played house in my guest room. She opened her mouth. No words came out. There was a knock on the door. I opened it. Marcus stood there with a police officer and a professionally dressed woman carrying a camera. Melissa Chun? Marcus asked. She nodded, frozen. I'm Marcus Bennett, attorney for Derek Chun. You're being served with divorce papers. He handed her a manila envelope. The process server stepped forward. Ma'am, I need you to sign here acknowledging receipt. Melissa took the papers with shaking hands. Derek, please. Let me explain. I have video footage of the entire week. You and Brett having dinner. Brett moving his clothes into our guest room. You two discussing divorcing me and splitting my assets. All of it. Audio and video. Time stamped and saved. That's illegal. You can't record people without their consent. Marcus spoke up. In North Carolina, one-party consent is sufficient for recordings. Mr. Chun consented to recording in his own home. Everything he captured is legally admissible. The police officer stepped forward. Ma'am, is there anyone else in the residence? No, Melissa whispered. Good. Mr. Chun has asked that you vacate the property tonight. You have 1 hour to pack essential belongings. Everything else can be retrieved later with proper arrangement. You're kicking me out? This is my house too. Marcus answered. This house is marital property, but Mr. Chun has the right to exclusive use during separation proceedings, particularly given documented evidence of adultery conducted on the premises. If you refuse to leave voluntarily, we'll pursue a court order. Melissa looked at me. Really looked at me. You stayed here all week? You watched us. I protected my interests. Documented your affair. Gathered evidence for the divorce. Yes. This is insane. What's insane is you moving your boyfriend into our house and planning to spend my money on your future together. That's insane. She had nothing to say to that. The officer gestured to the stairs. Ma'am, please pack your things. 1 hour. Melissa went upstairs. I heard drawers opening, clothes being thrown into suitcases. Marcus pulled me aside. You okay? I've had a week to process this. I'm fine. The footage is everything we need. Adultery in the marital home. Discussing financial plans involving marital assets. Her boyfriend essentially cohabitating. This is a very strong case. What about Brett? We can pursue alienation of affection. The recordings show he knew she was married and actively participated in damaging the marriage. Whether we win or not, the lawsuit alone will make his life difficult. 45 minutes later, Melissa came downstairs with 2 suitcases. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You have friends. You have family. You have Brett. She flinched at his name. I assume you'll be calling him, I said, telling him what happened. When you do, let him know I have footage of him discussing moving into my house permanently, talking about my income, planning a future with you using my assets. He might want to get an attorney. Her hand was shaking. I never meant for this to happen. You moved him into our house while I was gone. You spent a week playing married couple with him in our home. That doesn't happen by accident, Melissa. That's a choice. Multiple choices. And now you live with the consequences. The officer escorted her to her car, watched as she loaded her suitcases. She drove away without looking back. The house was finally quiet. Marcus and I spent the next hour going through next steps. Filing procedures, asset documentation, timeline for the divorce. She'll try to fight this, Marcus said. Claim the recordings are an invasion of privacy, that you're being vindictive. Let her. I have a week of her committing adultery in our house on video. I have her and her boyfriend discussing my finances and their plans to use marital assets. No judge is going to be sympathetic. Marcus smiled. This is one of the strongest cases I've had in years. You did good work, Derek. After he left, I walked through my house. Really walked through it. Not sneaking, not hiding. It felt different now. Violated. Tainted. I went to the guest room. Stripped the bed myself. Threw the sheets in the trash. I buy new ones. Then I pulled up the security footage one more time. Watched it from the beginning. Melissa bringing Brett into our home. Cooking for him. Laughing with him. Planning a future that erased me. I saved every file. Backed it up in 3 different locations. And sent copies to Marcus. Then I deleted the cameras. All of them. I didn't need surveillance in my own home anymore. The divorce moved quickly after that. Melissa hired an attorney, a guy named Paul Chun, no relation to either of us. Paul tried every angle he could think of. He argued the recordings were illegal. North Carolina's one-party consent law shut that down. He argued I'd violated Melissa's privacy. Marcus countered that she'd violated our marital home by conducting an affair in it. He tried to claim the recordings were edited or manipulated. I provided the raw files with metadata, proving they were unaltered. Paul even tried to argue that I'd psychologically abused Melissa by hiding in the house. Marcus shut that down with evidence showing I'd been working in my own office, not stalking or harassing anyone. Every argument failed. The evidence was too strong. Video footage of a week-long affair. Audio of discussions about divorcing me and splitting my assets. Brett essentially moving into our guest room. 3 months into the divorce proceedings, Paul called Marcus. My client wants to settle. I'm sure she does. She's willing to accept a 60-40 split of assets in Mr. Chen's favor. No alimony claims. Clean break. Marcus looked at me. I shook my head. Counteroffer, Marcus said. 70-30 split. Mr. Chun keeps the house. Mrs. Chun gets 30% of remaining marital assets. No alimony for either party. Mr. Chun also reserves the right to pursue alienation of affection claims against Brett Morrison. That's punitive. That's fair. Your client conducted a week-long affair in the marital home, planned to financially benefit from a divorce, and essentially allowed her boyfriend to move in while her husband was supposedly away. She's lucky we're not seeking a full forfeiture of marital assets. Paul called back 2 days later. She'll accept the terms. We signed the separation agreement in April. Melissa got 30% of our marital assets, about $85,000 from savings and retirement accounts. I kept the house, my business equipment, everything else. No alimony. No support. Clean break. The divorce was finalized in October after the required separation period. 8 years of marriage ended with video footage of a week-long betrayal. I heard what happened to Melissa and Brett through mutual friends who'd sided with me after learning the full story. Melissa had called Brett the night I kicked her out, told him everything. He'd panicked, stopped answering her calls, eventually told her he couldn't be with someone whose husband was suing him for alienation of affection. I never actually sued Brett, just threatened it. But the threat was enough. Melissa ended up moving to Charlotte, got a job with a different event planning company. Last I heard, she was single and struggling financially. Brett deleted his social media and disappeared, probably worried I'd actually follow through with the lawsuit. As for me, I sold the house 6 months after the divorce finalized. Too many bad memories. Bought a modern condo downtown Raleigh. Fresh start. Work stayed busy. I was good at my job, and my reputation kept growing. I started dating again about a year after the separation. Took it slow. Learned to trust carefully. Then I met Sarah. She was a corporate attorney, understood the value of honesty and transparency. We talked about everything, including my previous marriage. Your wife moved her boyfriend into your house while you were supposedly away. For a week. Discussed making it permanent. And you recorded everything from your office upstairs. Every conversation. Every interaction. Sarah was quiet for a moment. That's either brilliant or slightly unhinged. I can't decide which. Probably both. She smiled. Well, it worked. You got everything documented. I did. Do you still have the recordings? In encrypted storage. In case she ever tries to claim I'm lying about what happened. Smart. Never delete evidence. We've been together for 18 months now. She's never given me a reason to doubt her, never made me feel like I need to install cameras or document conversations. She's just honest, direct, everything Melissa wasn't. I think about that week sometimes, hiding in my own house, watching my wife play married couple with another man one floor below me. The rage, the humiliation, the calculated patience required to document everything without confronting them. It was the worst week of my life, but it was also the week I took control back. The week I gathered the evidence that protected me in the divorce. The week I proved to myself that I could stay 3 moves ahead, even when everything was falling apart. Melissa thought I was on a business trip. Brett thought he was moving into a free house with a woman who'd bankroll his lifestyle. Both of them thought I was oblivious. Instead, I was upstairs, watching everything, documenting everything, building the case that would end my marriage on my terms. They moved him into our guest room while I was away on business. I was actually upstairs, and I recorded everything.